Today's episode of the Know Your Gear podcast is brought to you by Patreon members, channel members, and viewers who like and subscribe. Thank you for making this possible. The Know Your Gear podcast.
Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome to the Know Your Gear podcast, episode 371. Pretty cool. I've had a crazy week. This show is we're gonna make today's show fun, even though it's been a little crisis lately. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's start with some announcements. Let's start with some stuff. Let you guys know what's going on. First of all, I announced last week that we're going to be doing a Know Your Gear, I don't know what you call it, viewer appreciation contest, KYG shirt contest, call it whatever you want. Here's how it works. I have links. You can buy Know Your Gear shirts. You can make a picture of you in your Know Your Gear shirt in front of a cool place next to a cool person. Maybe you're that cool person. In front of your gear, whatever you think is going to be cool. Have some fun with it. Now, if you don't want to buy a shirt, I understand that. You can make your own shirt. Like I said, we prefer you try not to sell your own version of our shirts. But if you make your own shirt, you'll get no grief from me, and like I said, don't feel weird sending it to me. I'm not offended in any way. Some of you guys are sending some AI created stuff. That's fun too. Who knows? Here's what has changed since last week, because always on this show we under promise, over deliver. Well, first of all, I said, hey, the winner, we'll pick a winner every month starting in August, and we'll give away a set of like a $300 set of Northern Lights Blackstock pickups, and nothing's changed there, but we've added something. What happened? Well, as always, kind of like how Tony Zither from Zither Stands, when we were giving away guitars, said, hey, why don't I give your viewers a $200 guitar stand, even though that wasn't in the contest and he didn't have to do that. Thank you again, Tony, for that. Steve from Dane Electro and Snark Tuners basically said, hey, why don't I give you a couple dozen $200 fuzz pedals to give away. So they arrive here tomorrow. I was showing them next week, which means we're definitely going to have a couple dozen winners now instead of just like 4, because I said we'd probably do this for the rest of the year. We're going to have a lot of things to give away. So we're still giving away some $300 pickups. We're giving away some $200 pedals. Will they be bigger prizes? We don't know. What are we going to pick? We don't know. In fact, I've already, my wife and I are going to decide the winners each time. It's just based on what we agree on, what we thought was cool. One of the winners right now, there's already a winner. We're not announcing it today because like I said, crazy week, no way to get it ready to announce. So I'll announce one winner next Friday, I promise. The winner is probably, you're going to be shocked, because let me just tell you, it was done in a bedroom. It wasn't done fancy. But there was something in the picture that we saw that most of you guys aren't going to see. And so I can't wait to share it with you. So like I said, and when you see this one, I think it's going to be a lot of you excited. Like, I don't think you're going to have to do a lot to impress us, because what impressed us was kind of silly. So giving away some cool stuff, doing some cool stuff. That's what this is for. It's really just to keep my happiness up. And we sell some merch. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with selling some merch, getting our logos out there, maybe helping us get to that 400,000 subscriber mark. All the things, I like I said, and I like looking at the pictures. To be honest with you, I use those pictures all the time. I was showing this one last week, which is this one, which is the picture of so many of you are in this picture. And, when I see stuff like that, it's just really cool. And like I said, whether it's because you bought some merch, which is nice, or just you're supporting us. I mean, it's not a hard logo to copy. It's a stick figure. And you could do the geeky stuff. You could do this logo. You could do the neon logo. I told you guys this before. My wife methodically made this great idea, and then I messed it up, which was originally this logo was supposed to mean that you were watching like a YouTube video, like a review or an instructional video, and the neon logo was supposed to mean for the podcast. And then I started corrupting the logos, using them both ways. So, but that's what they really are. So you guys know the neon logo is the podcast logo, and this logo is for. And we're still going to do the thing. If you have a PM Delos guitar and you send a picture of that guitar, we're going to give you something cool, like a shirt you can't buy kind of thing. Dickies stuff, custom made by my wife. So let's go. I'm assuming we'll probably, if we have more than 2 or 3 winners in that, I pretty much assume almost anybody who submits will probably win. Don't take that as a quote. I'm guessing. And then I'll get off the subject real fast, but just to let you guys know, because I'm sure some of you are curious, how many did we get the first week? How many entries? Probably 6 or 7 this week. entries. Maybe less than 10, more than 5. There you go. So, which is what we expected. I'm kind of expecting to get about between now and the end of the year, 50 submissions. So, like I said, we'll be, who knows? All right. Susan says, Phil, is the new logo going to be the Flying V? No, if you guys saw, oops, wrong logo. This one, oh, that's the Explorer. Or sorry, not the Explorer, whatever it is. I had my wife, I said, hey, will you make me a V logo in the neon sign this week? I wanted one for something I was up to, and she made it for me, and then she made the Explorer shaped style, whatever you want to call it, logo. The Explorer shape, no, that wouldn't go anywhere, but the V shape, would we make some merch with that? Probably. We had a V shape before in this style, never in the neon style. So, but there you go. Dougal Dog says, oh, you'll get more than 50. Well, I hope so. Like I said, it's really cool. And I'm really happy that Steve stepped up and sent the pedals, like I said, and expressed them to us. Like I said, they arrive here tomorrow. He was very kind. I mean, that's like $4,000 worth of pedals he sent. So to give away, which is really cool. And it was really nice because, you know, this is one of those things where I did my saying, I tell my daughter all the time, jump and pray for a parachute to appear. You know, we started this contest and we were actually just talking about it Saturday about how if we sell like 50 t-shirts, we won't even pay for the pickups that we're giving away. And we were laughing about it with wine, but we're like, it was not. In fact, we kind of, actually, to be fair, we kind of calculated that we could make $70 by the end of the year. So it was funny. So this will actually help us because, like I said, a lot of the stuff, we're only going to be paying the shipping now instead of the pedals. All right. So and like I said, maybe more announcements coming soon too. It was really cool. It's nice to feel this kind of, you know, this community. All right. Sorry, I'm just reading some of the comments. I shouldn't read the comments. I get subtracted. I get subtracted. I get distracted. All right. What else? I think that's all for the stuff of the announcements. I want to get into subjects and questions. First of all, I'm just going to let you know I did a quick announcement talking about the Dean versus Gibson lawsuit thing. There's if you haven't seen the video, you can watch it. There's actually a great video from the Blues Lawyer and also another one from KDH that I would suggest you check out that I also gave very fine points and interesting angles on it. I was trying to not talk about it like a lawyer, obviously, because I'm not one, but also because that's not the angle I like to look at it from. I like to look at everything like this way as the consumer. We've talked about this on the channel before. I've said this many times. I believe that trademarks are to protect consumers, not companies. I'm sorry. That's just how I feel as someone who owns a trademark. And someone who's been very vocal over the years with not liking fake, fraudulent stuff. And like I said, to me, and I have a very strong opinion. I always want to tell you guys, some people may be misreading my bias. One of my patrons, which I really appreciate the comment, said that I smirked or smiled in the video like I am now, when I mentioned that Gibson had spent, millions of dollars fighting this litigation. I didn't smirk for that reason. I smirked because I've been in a litigation where my family and I have spent millions of dollars on an attorney. Now, I know that I don't want you to think we had millions of dollars spent. We won a case, and the attorneys received the lion's share of the case because it was more of a not a case about money. It was a case about justice. So for us, and so in that case, what I learned is one that took 4 years, and it was horrific to go through because we lost family and we are forever changed for the worse for it. But in that case, one of the things that makes me biased about cases like these is it made me biased, okay, about what I call competition. And I'm going to just give this to you so you understand. Behind me today, I have a Paul Reed Smith single cut. I have a Nag single cut. I have a D'Angelico 335, 339 style guitar. I have a Texas Toast looking single cut. There's a another brand single cut. I'm not going to say the brand right there. I have a Heritage single cut. And of course, out of frame, not on purpose, there's a Gibson single cut. And here is my Engl. In this guitar world, I want you to know that I have this channel for fun. This is fun. Talking about this to me is fun. I hope it's fun for you. I like talking about this. In a world of competition, I want to see companies compete against each other to make the best product for us. In my personal experience, which is hard for me to talk about, I talk about this. My family and I were a victim of the very famous Ford SUV rollovers where the tires delaminated and we were hurt forever and people died in the accident. And my argument today is that's a serious thing. This is silliness, what they're all fighting about, because they're fighting about money. But I want to tell you that as someone who's been in that incident and prevailed, what really happened in that case was Ford didn't have to compete with other companies. As a consumer, I was not informed. So what I mean by that is if my family and I were in a Nissan, a Toyota, or Honda, some of us would have lived. Some of us would not be hurt today because those cars came with the safety features that would have saved the people who exited the vehicle. Only the import companies had to put those at that time. They only had to put those safety features at the time. The Ford Corporation was not required to do that. Put safety features. So one of the safety features was the tire delaminated, the vehicle rolled at highway speeds, and because there was no sensor to tell the airbags the vehicle was rolling, the airbags did not deploy, so people were not held in the vehicle. So I drive a Honda now, so you know, and my daughter drives a Honda, my son drives a Honda. If I'm not judging anybody's decisions, okay? If anything, Ford makes, I believe Ford makes better products this day because of those lawsuits. But if you would tell me that because Ford invented the pickup truck, that no one could make a pickup truck, I would hate that decision. I like the idea of competition. I want somebody to push another competitor. Somebody put on that video a really interesting comment. They said, how would you feel if somebody copied my channel and did reviews like me? Well, I actually copied someone else's channel. I told you guys I was inspired by other people, and I'm trying to do a better job than what I saw before me. I hope I am. That's what I want. So if somebody copies me and does a better job, please, and I'll work harder to beat you too. That's the idea. So I try to not take it take it to the serious place that I had to, but I just want you to know where the bias is coming from, as hard as that is for me to talk about, because of the fact that, like I said, in this case, all these cases, talking about it is fun. Guitar talk is fun, even if it's silliness like this. But to me, when I hear a company spending millions of dollars to fight another company over a shape, it's silly. So that's why I talked about it. So there you go. Like I said, if you're interested in it, I did a video. Like I said, check out the Blues Lawyer, check out KDH. They had interesting points. Obviously, like I said, everybody's just giving their 2 cents on it. And it's hard not to talk about what comes up as news of the week on a guitar channel, right? There's not a whole lot of interesting things to talk about. So we'll try to jump subjects now and go on to the next subject. And I actually have an interesting one. For me, it was from YouTuber. Interesting sign on. Says, "Hi Phil, my 4-year-old is asking what is your favorite guitar." What's funny is I will tell you without a doubt. Without a doubt, you can only say right now, okay? I have to always preface it with right now. What's my favorite guitar right now? My favorite guitar right now is my PM Delos. It has been for the last couple of years. It's just a go-to guitar for me for no reason other than it stays in tune and I just feel comfortable with it. In fact, I would say that if you watch this channel for any length of time, it's easy to figure out that I really have bonded to the PM Delos, which is essentially my copper Fender Strat. And when I had that guitar made, all I was trying to do was just have a more affordable version of my Strat, because my Strat was $7,000. I didn't pay that, but I mean, it's $7,000 to get the custom shop Strat that I have now. And when people would email me saying, "Hey, I'm trying to get that Strat and it's really expensive," I reached out to Kiesel. I said, "Why don't you make a version of it? And I'll try it." And I ended up liking it more. I thought if I could like it almost as much, I would tell you guys like, "Hey, it's not the same as my Fender, but it's close. Go for that." considering, like I said, I don't make any money if you buy either one of those guitars. So I don't really care. I just feel bad for people calling me or emailing me saying, hey, that guitar takes 2 years and costs $7,000. I'm like, well, when I had it made in the earlier 2000s, it was $2,500 and it took about 8 months. But that's my favorite guitar for sure. And then my favorite amp is still a Princeton. And that ties into a second question I actually had set up to kind of line up, which is Dewey7330 says, Phil, is your Princeton a 65 or 68 Princeton? And the answer is yes, Dewey. Dewey, I am a Princeton fan. It's my favorite amp in the world. I don't know why. I don't know what it is about it. I think it's because I like amps that compress. They have a compressed kind of clean tone where, again, like a compressor pedal, right? But not so choked out. And I feel like the Princeton compresses. You know, when I hit a note, I feel like a bass player. As a bass player, I kind of like to feel not the wind of the speaker, but just the movement, you know, this instant movement. And I think the Princeton has a very immediate attack, whether it's being overdriven or if it's clean. So I have a 68. The 68 has been converted into a head. I run that through a 112. I have a 65 Princeton that for some reason, I don't know why, it's a little brighter. I prefer the 68, and I have a 64 Princeton. I think that one's behind me today. Nope, it's not behind. Oh, it is. You just can't see it in frame. If you could see in front of this amp, which you might when we do Guitar of the Week, I think you'll see it. Look for it. You'll see that it's my 64. The 64 is hand wired. I've been wanting a 64 for a long time, and I found one used, and I bought it. If you guys want my opinions on the three, here are my opinions. I'm stupid and I like gear, and sometimes, sometimes I get a little crazy with my money, and that's what I did. I bought the used 64. I think the 64 sounds really great. I love it. Is it way better than the 65 or 68? I don't think it's way better. I like it more. Of the three, it's my favorite, but by what percentage, I couldn't tell you. And I actually like the Tone Master Princeton, so you know as well. I like them all. I think I'd like to tell you my 68 is my favorite, but I think there's something about them all. So I hope I don't have to get rid of them ever and just keep them all. Because you never can have enough Princetons, apparently. Okay. Brian says, I don't remember the black PRS single cut or the red LP style guitar on the walls. The black, this is actually one of my oldest guitars. I've had this guitar since I've been doing YouTube. And so in the earliest videos, you will see this pop up. It's trans black. It looks gray, or it's like trans gray black. But as soon as you get 4 feet from it, it just looks like solid black. I just recently added the cream covers to it to give it a more PRS. It's a PRS S2 semi-hollow. They don't make anymore. I had a blue one that looked way better, if you saw a metallic blue one in the videos, but this one just felt better and played better. And I'm convinced the reason it feels better is when whoever sanded the neck just went a couple extra passes on the neck and thinned that pattern regular just a little bit. And I've really kind of found over the years that it's not pattern thins or pattern regulars I like. It's pattern regulars if the employee's a little aggressive with the sandpaper, is like almost like the perfect neck. So I love that guitar. It's the only thing I changed is the pickup covers, and I think the switch tip is tan. But other than that, the guitar would be stock pickups. Even though I agree with everybody, they're a little dark sounding. I like it. And then the red one's coming. It's a video coming soon. You guys created opportunity. That'll be this week. So this current week, if you notice, I really didn't make a lot of content. It's because I was having, we had planned this for a couple months to have the house painted, and what's the joke? If you want God to laugh, make a plan. That's what we did. It was laughing all week. They were laughing all week at us. So it was, and so literally I turned on the cameras and video today as they're pulling paper off the doors and stuff here. So, and for anyone who tells me anything, because they're always going to have an opinion, of course, on the internet about painting. My house, the way it's a 2-story house, the way you walk in the first room, you walk in the front room, has vaulted. It's 17-foot ceilings. So we just couldn't paint it ourselves without renting scaffolding and stuff. So we hired somebody to do it. All right. Oh, okay. What are we going to do? Oh, yeah, we're going to go back to another subject question. Okay, so I have another one right here. It says, Darren was an early riser question who says, hey, is there less labor required to make a fretless bass than the identical fretted model? And if less labor is required, why don't prices reflect that? Okay, so Darren, this is where I'm going to talk differently. Sometimes when you guys ask questions like that, I talk about the factories I've visited and things I've seen in factories. I've seen very little fretless basses made in factories. I've personally witnessed them. But I have built basses, as some of you may know, and I have built fretless basses. And so what I can tell you on a fretless bass is that it's much, I want to say, easier by difficulty. Obviously, putting frets is not hard work, but definitely not super ridiculously easy. So a fretless is not as difficult in the difficulty of doing it, but is more labor intensive because even though you're using a radius block to sand the fretboard has to be perfect. It can't have any low spots. Essentially, think of the fretboard as one giant fret, and that fret has to be perfect because otherwise, like say, when you're playing up and down the fretboard, you could have a spot, a little kind of farty tone, if you will. So a little bit more labor intensive for me when I made fretlesses, but I would tell you that every time I had to make a fretless, I was happy to do it because it was like, it's just this, just more arm work, more sanding, radiusing. Now, so the next part of that question is, well, why don't the prices reflect that? The prices they do reflect that because one of the reasons that fretlesses will usually be more than a fretted instrument is because you're going to sell a lot less of them, and think of it as specialty, right? Just like a left-handed instrument, I'm sorry, left-handed people, just like anything that's going to be different than what standard production is. Think of it as semi-custom or custom, and therefore they're going to add some price to it because the volume drops, and again, it takes a little bit more time to do something different. Maybe, now I'm speculating, maybe one of the problems with a fretless bass in a lot of shops would be there's less employees that are trained to do the fretless instruments versus the fretteds. So some bass companies charge the same for fretted and fretless, and some charge a little bit more for fretless. I can tell you this, it's really easy to pull the frets off a bass and make it fretless. That I've done even more than I've made fretless instruments from scratch. I have, you gotta love Jocko for that. I've done maybe 6 or 7 jazz basses in my life where somebody came in and said, give it the Jocko treatment, which is basically rip the frets out. Rip meaning politely, nicely take the frets out without chipping out the wood, getting a lot of chip out. And then essentially using use little maple strips, and you put them in there, and you kind of glue them in there, and then you radius it. And then some people want you to do a lacquer finish over it, lacquer the fretboard, and some don't. So I've done both ways. And difficult wise, I wouldn't say, as long as you have a radius block and some time, I think anybody can pull it off very successfully without any drama at all. It's a very interesting thing. There's a lot of meat on that fret, on most fretboards. You got about a 1/4 inch of fretboard, so it's if you don't get it right the first couple passes, you'll eventually get it right, and there's no way you're sanding through half a fretboard with a sanding beam and our sanding radius block and whatever grit paper, which is going to be usually somewhere around the 300 and up type. So there's your answer to that. Okay, so what else do we have? We have something. Let's jump around. For 11 midnight, what's up, buddy? He says, Phil really needs to try this Maybach Lester 60. I've tried the Maybach Les Pauls. I've played them. I don't remember what models specifically were, or if the Lester 60, let's take a look, see if I can scan the internet and see what it is real quick, if it's something different. But I've played a bunch of the Maybach guitars, a Fender style guitar, it's a Les Paul style guitar. I've played them. I like them. I really, really like them. I said this before. I'll say it again. I was in Germany twice. I talked to Maybach and asked them if they were interested in sending a guitar for review, and they, at that time, both those times, were not interested in sending a Les Paul style instrument into the U.S. So this isn't official from their corporate headquarters, but the employee said obviously there's concerns that obviously Gibson would give them some kind of cease and desist. They didn't want to basically be on Gibson's radar in the U.S., so they didn't want to send that. I think if I'm doing off memory, and I'm pretty sure I was right. I think they said they would send me another style guitar, but not that one. But that was the one I liked. So, and yeah, Beast Rich 581 says Maybach is hard to get in the U.S. Yeah, I know. Trust me, I know. I mean, I figured if they wouldn't do it for me, I was like, holy crap. I mean, not that I'm special, but I mean, I think, I would have helped put them on the radar for a lot of you guys, and so I was a little like, okay, I get it, but I get it, that's kind of why, every time Gibson does anything positive or negative, I talk about it, just like, we're going back to this. I don't want to keep hitting it, but I was talking about biases. Keep in mind, I don't have any bias towards Dean, just 9 months ago, I have a title on a video talking about Dean's problems too. No company is perfect. And like I said, I'm not trying to present anyone as a villain or the hero in the story, other than the fact that I do find it a little silly when it comes to like, hey, if you make a guitar that looks like my guitar, I'm going to sue you kind of thing. But I feel about every way, about every kind of product. I don't think I've said anything opposite than that over the years. I just can tell you, and in that video, I was just telling you what I had read and seen in the videos. All right, let's go to a question right here. Let me refresh this. So far, everything's going good. We're kind of thinking maybe the show would have problems today because of we're running the internet a little differently today. All right, Vim69 says. I don't know what, I'm going to say hi. He says hi. Okay, hey, just got back from Japan 30 minutes ago. Wow, we had a fun, we had fun taking KYG photos. Oh man, that's awesome. That's awesome. Dude, thanks. I think if you're who I'm thinking of, I think you sent me pictures already. See, the problem is you guys have sign-ons, and then sometimes when you email me and you're like, this is like Chuck, and I'm, 5873251, and sometimes my brain can't connect all that all the time, remember all this stuff. I'm always trying to, my brain's only got room for guitar details. So anyways, I'm excited that you're back. Thank you for the super chat, and I can't wait to see the photos. If it's not the ones I've already think I've seen and kind of talked about and shared on the Patreon page. Mike says, hey Phil, I'm about to retire from the Army. Oh, thank you for your service. 22 years. Woo! That's awesome, man. Does it say what your MOS was? I'm just curious. My dream retirement job is to open up a full-service guitar store specializing in high-end boutique gear as well as repairs. Is this a mistake in today's market? It's not a mistake as long as you want to do it and you educate yourself as much as you can about the business side. The business side is very important. What I mean by that, I've talked about this before, Mike. I tell everybody this. Look, this is a lot of people's dreams. I was my dream. That's why I opened a music store. In fact, since I talked about the car accident, now you probably understand what really happened in my life. I had a corporate job. I was involved in a very horrific accident. I wasn't going through I wasn't going through so much crisis, but it was really, I had a lot of stuff. There was a lot to go through emotionally, and I loved my job. I loved what I did in corporate America. I love it. I'd love to do it to this day, but at that time I really needed to change my venue, right? And I thought, what do I want to do? And I told my wife, I said, let's open a music store and let's do it. And I wanted to be around guitars all day. It's kind of what happens, I guess, when you survive things. And so anyways, so what I'm telling you is this is what I've learned, and again, the benefit of my mistakes in opening the store. Educate yourself and teach yourself everything there is about leasing. That's where you're going to spend when you're a small store, the lease is going to be the thing that probably takes you out. Expense-wise, employees will probably become the single biggest expense, but when you're starting out, the single biggest expense will be your rent and your lease. And I'll tell you, since you're talking about retiring, let me tell you my philosophy in life and what I've had to do in my life to live the life I want to live. I mentioned that I don't take debt. Like I don't have a car loan. I don't have credit loans. I don't have loans. And the reason I don't is because of having a business for so long. What I learned is that for me, I have been in the scenarios that I didn't want to be in, where, rent is due, employees' checks are due, and now my ethics are on the line. Do I pay the bills and tell this customer that guitar is right for them? Or do I keep my ethics and let that customer walking out knowing that I might lose everything? And I had been put in that situation so many times when you start out in business, where your ethics are literally, it's not the cool way. It's not the fun story. Everybody says like, "Whoa, would you do this for $1 million?" And you fantasize about it. I always like it when that people say that to me, because it's. And I shouldn't say this to so many people, but I'll say it. When somebody says, "Hey, would you do this for $1 million?" That means you've never had to be in a situation where you would probably do worse for $1,000, because you have responsibilities. So what I did over time is I made the right decisions. I paid those prices, but those prices made me never want to do the right decision again. Does it make sense? Like, as great as it is to say like, "Oh yeah, I took the high road," okay, and I lost for it. That doesn't make you feel good either. People say you sleep well at night. I don't find it ever helped me sleep at night either way. Morally feeling good, knowing that I'm broke, didn't feel good. And it probably wouldn't make me feel good knowing my morals were corrupted if I had the money. Either way, I think I was screwed. So what I came up with was something in the meantime, and so did my wife too, which is we will design or build our life as much as we can around whatever we have, whatever happens tomorrow won't affect like next month. Does it make sense? You guys see it all the time. I'll go, I'm just going to sell a couple guitars. That's because I own all this stuff. I own everything that I have. And if something happens to me that I don't predict, well, then I will take the lump that I take then, but I don't have to worry about what I have to do to pay a bill. So that's what I did. I highly recommend that if you want to be an entrepreneur in today's life, in today's business. Get rid of your bills as fast as you can. I'm envious of everyone with a monthly or weekly paycheck. I would totally take a loan if I had a check. So it's not a judgment call. I'm not judging people like, "Oh, you have a car loan?" I'm like, "Not me." No, if you have a car loan, you probably have a check. If I had a check again, I would have a car loan. But when you don't have a check and you know that basically next month, if money doesn't come in, you might have to go, well, maybe I will review Temu for 10 grand or 5 grand. I don't want to be tempted by that. So I would highly suggest that in this business. I think is because guitar players are artistic by nature. I don't care if you just play Mary Had a Little Lamb or you can play like, Eric Clapton and John Mayer and Eddie Van Halen, you name your favorite guitar player. I think artistic people are emotional people, and emotional people sense things. They sense it on you. They smell it on you. Not only desperation, everybody can smell that, but they smell that you're full of shit, right? And you have to worry. You have to worry about that. You have to make sure that you are presenting your most honest yourself. And this, I think, and if you want to be successful in this industry, I think. The people that stick out to me as being the most sincere, honest people have followed that, some kind of version of this philosophy that I'm talking about, which is do what you love. Don't put yourself in a position to where you're going to have to make decisions you didn't want to make in the first place, because that's not why you're doing this. You're doing this because hey, you served your country for 22 years. Now it's time for you to go enjoy yourself at a music store and talk to people. And please do the things you want. Have those boutique guitars. And so, when I talk about ethics, in my store, I had visions of how I thought the store would be and the idea of what guitars I would carry and what kind of guitar players would hang out. And then slowly over time, you had to do carry things that maybe I wasn't excited about, and that's not what my dream was, but that's okay. It's okay. But I'm just saying, ethics isn't just like committing a crime. Ethics could be, I really want to carry a brand I really believe in. And then sometimes you have to go, well, I have to carry the brand that everybody buys because I got bills too. So I think that's the advice I give now. And everything else I think will fall into place if you follow that. Like I said, be strategic and seek advice like you just did, man. Seek advice. Anything you want to know, I will help you with. And then more importantly, I probably send you to smarter people than me. Mike says, hey, Phil, Oh, no, Mike, I just answered your question. Litvey, what's up, Litvey? Litvey says, thoughts on the dual coil jazz bridge pickups people pair with the P pickup at the neck for full noise cancel. Recommendations for one pair with the vintage P. You know, Litvey, this is with bass pickups, I wish I was more into them like I am the guitar pickups. With bass pickups, I've tried the gamut and I keep coming back to either a one and done set, you know, like it's just the company I buy has their pickups and their module in it. It's just one and done and I like the way it sounds and I don't want to mess with it. Or I use a vintage style bass pickup. That's what I find I go back to. I like just a basic vintage style jazz bass pickup, P bass pickup sound. I don't need stacked noiseless. I don't need any of that stuff. In fact, I just recently gutted an active system out of one of my basses because for years I'd had it on there and I've been bypassing it like crazy. And I thought, you know what, why is it even here? And I just yanked it out. But interesting enough, I'll be curious to see what you think of Guitar of the Week today. The Smelly Cats Jazz says new Guitar Day Jackson American Series Soloist from Franklin Guitar Works at $1,400 blowout. Yeah, you know why? Boy, they merely missed that target, did they? You know, they came out for $2,000, and I thought they were great. I would own one, so you know, I wanted the white pearl one, and then after that, I think with the blue one was my second choice. I just was trying to find one that wasn't 9 pounds. There was a few that were 8 pounds. I was just hoping to find one of those 7.5 pounder ones. As you guys know, I kind of put those requirements on myself, so it's harder for me to impulse buy that stuff, but. Great guitar, but $1,400. I mean, it's a great deal. Turned out to be $1,250 after saving the post, which ended up at $1,100 after the counter. This is getting cheaper by the minute. By the time you got home, it was free. Now I'll run out of money before the deal's due. This is absolutely true, and that was a great deal. $1,100. That guitar is great. It's a fantastic instrument for that price for sure. Mr. Mount says, hey, Phil, thank you for everything you do. I picked up a 68 Princeton based on your love of it, and I love it too. Great compressed, mellow sound, just as you said. Yeah, I really, you know, a lot of people don't like the 68 series of stuff. I don't want to test any of the other series. I've owned, and you've seen videos throughout the years, you've seen certain amps that came and gone on the channel. I've tried all the other 68 stuff. It was fine. I didn't find any love for anything, just loved the 68 Princeton. Like I said, a little bit warmer, less brighter than the 65. So I always tell people if that's, you know, warmer isn't what you're looking for, go 65. If you find the 65 is too bright. You know, the 68 helped me like the 65. You know, when I played the 65, I always thought it was too bright. It just didn't do it for me. Found the 68, fell in love with it. Over time, thought, well, maybe if it was a little brighter, I'd like it. Found the 65. The 64, by the way, sounds pretty much like the 65. Dumac. Hey, Phil, are boutique strings worth it? Or are strings other than cheap knockoffs, of course? So, of course, when you say boutique strings, I think of String Joy for first. This comes to my mind, and then maybe like Labella. I've talked about Arcoco, but I don't think they're making strings anymore. Boutique strings, this is what I will tell you about strings, and you know, and everybody always has an opinion about the strings, and instead I like to have an opinion about the companies of the strings. Here's my opinion. I love the guys at D'Addario. I like Jim and John D'Addario. I got to hang out with them once at the Musical Instrument Museum, and they were as nice as you could be to someone. I wasn't a YouTuber. I was just there. They didn't even know why I was there. It was a special event. So you know, my wife and I still to this day don't know why we were there. We got called and invited. We thought we got invited by D'Addario. We now realize it might have been the museum that called us and invited us. So we just showed up to this event. It was at night. The entire Musical Instrument Museum was closed, and you just sat there like they do on the movies. I was in a suit. I had a custom suit made with. One day I'll have to show this picture. I had a custom suit made with matching Vans. But my wife, of course, wore a nice dress, and she looked amazing and stuff. And then we went to this event, and we drank wine and you know, and hobnobbed with the social people. And Jim and John D'Addario was great there. And in there, I talked their ear off, as you can imagine, and then told them about a pack of strings I like of theirs, but I wish they made it for a 5-string bass. And then 2 weeks later, they showed up. They just made me a set. They must have, you know, remembered my name and got my information and sent them to me. But so back to, you didn't ask about them, you asked about boutique, but that leads me to my second favorite, which is String Joy Strings. I love Blake. I love all those guys at String Joy. That's why I support them. That's why I like them. So if you want me to tell you that String Joy boutique strings are so much better than those strings, what I can tell you is that selling so many damn strings to so many different guitar players over the years there is no string that is perfect or the one. Everyone, for some reason, because of like your hands, whether you sweat or you don't sweat, whether you have more acid in your sweat, whether you hit hard, whether you hit light, whatever it is, for every time somebody says this is a good brand, somebody's going to tell you that brand sucks. Interesting enough, I did get a 12-string electric guitar. I ordered a set of 12. You cannot make this up. In fact, you know what? Let me share this with you. I'm going to share you something. You couldn't predict stuff like this, so that's why we probably should share it. I'm going to type in 12-string. So I got a new 12-string electric guitar. I'm not going to share what it is. What I am going to tell you is that I had an idea. I go, what if I put some smaller 12-string strings on it? I went to the Sweetwater site and I perused the string sets, and there wasn't any really good. There's not a lot of strings that make them. D'Addario doesn't make anything but the 10-gauge set. I was looking for 9s, maybe 8s. Found these. Ernie Ball's regular slinky. I'm usually not an Ernie Ball guy. But, 8-gauge strings, $12.99, sounds good. Here's what made me laugh about these strings, proves my point. Let's look at the reviews, shall we? There are 2 reviews. One is 5 stars, one is 2. Literally, this is the review. This is the set I throw on my 12-string electric. Ernie Ball strings just found better than other brands. Goes on and on. That's the review. Next review. Okay, ready? Maybe the 8s are too light, blah, blah, unwrapped strings, tendency to unravel at the ball ends. Some sets have lasted a week. I do not find these reliable at all. That is when I bought the strings, I ordered them. They should be here tomorrow, I think. When I ordered them, I was literally laughing because that is my point when it comes to strings. Don't let anybody just try strings. They're not that expensive. You're not bass players. You're not paying $25 to $40 a set. In fact, buy 2 or 3 sets. Take a $20 bill and buy 3 sets of strings. The general rule on strings, they're about $1.50 a string, generally speaking in today's market. So a set of strings is going to cost you between $5 to $7. Get yourself 2 or 3 brands and give them a try yourself and just compare them. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about if ones are good or not. The boutique strings, are they better? I think for me, sometimes it's nice to know I'm supporting a small business than a big business. It's not to villainize big business. It's that I understand what it's like to be a small business. And you sometimes you just like people. Like I said, I support a local restaurant because they're local. Small businesses sometimes treat their employees better. Sometimes they treat their employees worse. You have to factor all that in, right? Like I said, if that's what does it for you. But that's why I buy those 2 brands of strings. D'Addario for that reason, String Joy for that reason. And then for bass, I play DRs, as you guys know. Mostly DRs on all my basses, mostly, but with some exceptions. Interesting enough, we're going to be talking about an exception of that today. So that's my reasoning for strings. There's pretty no other much reason. I would say if I was going to guess the number one reason most guitar players pick strings based on my experience selling them to them, it's price. They pick the cheapest ones that work for them. I don't think there's anything wrong with that either. So, but I'm not going to go on any tangents about one string lasting longer and being better because I literally just showed you 2 people tried the same string and they had totally different results. That would be my experience with every brand all the time. This brand doesn't last, and this brand lasts forever from the same brand, different people. But great question, Do. And hopefully you know what you should do for fun? Buy yourself a pack of boutique strings and the cheapest pack you can get and try them and see what you notice. Okay, Miserable Turd says, put this towards the pizza with pepperoni and cheese. and Ambien. Ambien's to make you go to sleep, right? Yeah, okay. I probably should know that. I will. You know what? Thank you for the pizza money. All right, he's got more though. He says, could you own a guitar store in San Francisco where shoplifting is legal? Oh, we're not going to go there. Let me just tell you a funny story. I'm not going to go into that because that's the politics of it. I'm not going to be like this state's politics, that state. Look, I have opinions like everybody about this stuff. And my main reason for not sharing them is I'm an idiot. Don't listen to me about that. You know, I spend so much time with my nose in a guitar. Maybe listen to me about that. But when it comes to politics and stuff, what I know is what most of you know, which is what you saw on some stupid video somewhere too. So I know stupid video information that I can regurgitate. I wouldn't trust me for that. But what I can tell you about is San Francisco is that I was thinking about opening a music store. You know, when I started opening a music store, I was thinking about it. And at that time, remember, I was going through some stuff. But I happened to meet somebody who had a music store in San Francisco, and they were talking about how the rent had tripled. And this is 2003, 2004, probably 2004. So 2004. And they were like, 20 years ago, they were like, man, the rent had like tripled over the last 10 years for them. And they said, here's some advice. If you're going to do it now, because it's not going to get cheaper. So the thing I'm going to tell you is, Miserable Turd, to kind of not sidestep your total question, is this. I would open a store wherever I would love to live, which is why I opened a store here, because that's where I love to live. But more importantly, I would say that although state to state and city to city could be different, what I will tell you is not different is prices are always going up, rents are always going up, and crime is always getting worse. Remember, I've been robbed a couple times in my store. So crime is everywhere. And they didn't catch anybody except for, I told you, actually, I think I told that story. I don't want to tell it again, but they caught one of the criminals that stole from us, and they went to jail. And I think I told you this. I was getting restitution checks for years. Maybe I didn't tell the story. I don't know. I'll be quick about it. Somebody robbed us. That's all you have to know. They got caught. They went to jail, like prison. They went to prison, and they were forced. They were, I guess they call it as forced, right? Whatever. There's a legal term for it. I don't know. They were required to pay us restitution. So I would get checks every month to bi-monthly, and sometimes it'd be like $8, sometimes it'd be $1.50, sometimes it'd be $13. So one day, my friend, who was a bureau chief in Arizona, that would be what you would call a district attorney, basically. I went, well, I have a friend who's a district attorney, basically. I should ask him, why is it so weird? This is so weird. What is this? Like, I got a check for $1.50, and then I got one for like $40. And he goes, oh, it's because they're attaching his prison commissary account. And I go, oh, what? And he goes, yeah, his family and friends put money in his commissary account, and because you're the victim, you're getting a piece of it. By the way, when he got out of jail, the worst thing that happened was they had to send me a letter certified twice to different locations. They called me 3 times that week, and then they woke me up at like 1 a.m. to let me know he's being released, because part of his release is he had a forever restraining order against me and my property, my store and stuff, and anywhere where I was. So it was me and the property, because I was named as the main victim, I guess, right? So anyways, so it freaked me out. You get a call from the police department at 1 a.m. I was like, what the hell? And it's like, this person is being released, and just they wanted me to know. But anyways, the crazy part of the story was, so I tell my buddy Robert. So I tell Robert, I go, so they're just attaching his commissary, and then it stopped coming. Money stopped coming, and I said, oh, I'm not getting money anymore. He goes, oh, it's probably because he's having his cellmate. He's probably having his friends and family put money into his cellmate's account, so that way you don't get, a piece of it. I said, oh, that sucks. He goes, yeah, it sucks for him, because he goes, I don't want to know what he's got to do to get his roommate to do that for him. And I laughed awkwardly. And then a couple months later, money started showing up again. And I go, I guess he didn't want to do that for his roommate anymore. whatever was costing him to not send me that $1 to $3 a month, he just stopped wanting to do that. And then eventually the check stopped. I never got full restitution out of it, because once he got out of jail, they could, they're not going to find him. They can't garnish anything or whatever. So I was out thousands of dollars on that. So Miserable Turd, what I'm trying to say is, man, that's why I can't engage with that stuff. I understand what your guys are saying. Places are crazy. I see the same crazy stuff on the news you see, but everywhere's crazy. To some degree, we're just arguing. It's kind of like I have a joke that everybody who's everyone who's fat calls somebody else fat, because the rule is you can call somebody fatter than you fat. That's my joke that I tell my friends, right? Like the thinnest person in the room can call everybody fat. And then the fat person can call the fatter person fat. That just seems how the war works. So we work the same way with all that way and through society. The lower crime states can call the other crime states more crime, but you get the idea. I don't know. By the way, notice how I would like to give myself credit for notice how I turned that into a guitar story. All right, Chris, what do you want to know? Chris wants to know, Phil, I'm looking for a parlor to concert size acoustic, and I'm surprised how few NYC shops have good selection in the range. Thoughts on the best online shops? I mean, best online shops for me for acoustic guitars, I would say Acoustic Vibes is online. They're a good shop. They do high-end, nice acoustics. I'm not really familiar with all the other high-end acoustic shops, but I would recommend Sweetwater only because Real Pictures, you can get information and you can return pretty easily when it comes to acoustics. So again, I'm only saying that from experiences. So you know, I will buy pretty much any electric guitar online. I do it all the time, no problem. I have bought little to no acoustic guitars online because it's just too personal. You know, so I understand your pain. So I'm trying to think if I actually ever bought an acoustic guitar online, and I don't know if I actually have. So you know, my Taylors I have and my Martin, I got them from Guitar Centers because which was a nightmare because they're like chained to the wall and they're missing strings and it was bad, but I would rather touch them and then I was able to go, okay, if I lower the action, I do this, I'll make it work. But I'd almost recommend, you know, hitting the Guitar Center. Just hit any local store. I prefer, to me personally, acoustic guitars. Two best advice I can give you if you're going to buy a nice acoustic guitar: play it and have somebody there with you that can play. Because the best way to buy a good acoustic is not only to play the acoustic, but to have someone play it to you. You want to hear it from both sides. It's very important, in my opinion. That you hear it both ways, from your position and from the other position. Just an example, you know, I've just learned that over the years. That's how I would used to sell acoustics really well, was I'd let somebody hold it and then they'd play it and then I'd play it to them and then I'd go hear what you're hearing and they go yes and for beginners, I used to tell beginners all the time with acoustics, I'd say, hold it. And they go, well, I don't know how to play it. And I go, I don't care if you know how to play it. Just hold it. If it pokes you in the arm, then it's going to poke you when you know how to play too. If it feels heavy on one side, it's going to feel heavy too. Like you can get situated with something and not have to actually play it to see if it's comfortable. So, and that's the first step. Is it comfortable? You know, acoustics. Acoustics to me are fatiguing to play. Stronger, you know, a little higher action, a little stronger strings, a little bigger. Put your arm position up high like this versus down here. Electric guitar, this position, do this. For those who watch and want to do this with my arm, I have my elbow like parallel with my nipple. I'm sorry, I don't want to have a way to explain it to the audio people later. And then put your elbow up parallel to your shoulder. And you know, unless you're 20, this doesn't feel great, right? This feels better than up. When you're 20, it probably feels the same. Acoustic guitars, even if you're supporting it with the acoustic guitar, you realize this position is more fatiguing than this position with the arm down. It just is. So that's why sometimes you're talking about a parlor guitar or a grand auditorium, a different shaped acoustic. If you can change a position, you just feel when it feels right. To me, you know, you have a great acoustic guitar. If you can play an acoustic guitar for an hour and feel like 5 minutes went by, you have the right guitar. I promise you that is an acoustic guitar you'll own forever. It needs to disappear. The time needs to disappear with an acoustic guitar. So go in the store and pick it up and play it. And if you look at the clock and you've been playing it for 15 minutes and it feels like 2, you're probably on the right track. That's just my 2 cents with what I've seen and what I've had helped with. So, all right, Steve Wright says, hey, I got my hollow flash. He's talking about his Badlands hollow flash today. Loving it. Question, seems like most headless guitars have 20-inch radius. Okay, wow, this went 2 different ways. One, I'm glad you got your hollow flash today, and I'm glad you like it. So let's start there. That's really cool. Question, seems like most headless guitars have 20-inch radius. Well, you know, keep in mind, I have a Strandberg headless guitar. Most of my headless guitars are Kiesels, and Kiesel lets you pick your radius, and I pick 12s and 14s. So, in fact, the last headless guitar I ordered from Kiesel has a 12-inch radius as well. So it's different. I never looked to see, you know, the problem with headless guitars is that even though Kiesels are expensive. They are expensive guitars. To me, getting exactly what I want in the color I want, the style I want, for hundreds of dollars more than a production instrument is why for headless, they're who I think of and go to for. So don't be shocked. I'll eventually have like a half a dozen headless guitars over time because I'm just really loving them. And other than the Strandbergs, I don't know who else I'm looking at besides Kiesel. Okay, so is there a big difference? He wants to know if there's a big difference between 12 and 14-inch radius. It's not a big difference. You know, the difference is, here's where you notice differences in radius of fretboard, okay? He says, looking at a used but may order a Vader or headless Delos. Okay, so let's go back to radiuses. Radiuses, what you notice on them mostly is bar chords. That's the way, like when you put your finger across, you know, your pointer finger, when you put your pointer finger across the board, like I like the barred F chord, right? I don't know why I'm holding up camera. The barred F chord, you know, a rounder fretboard feels a little easier to do that chord because, like I said, getting your finger perfectly flat, I don't know why I'm doing this way, it's very hard, right? It's always kind of a little bit arched, especially when you twist your hand this way. Kind of like, again, I'm making people do this stuff, but you gotta twist your hand and look at it. You can see when you're trying to flatten out, it's pretty hard to flatten out. It's not even a strength thing, it's more of a memory thing, you know, with memory of your tendons and muscle memory and stuff. So the rounder the radius, the easier those kind of chords are, which is why some guitar companies do compound radius. They make it rounder towards where the bar chords are and flatter for the shredding, right? Me, I've tried all the radiuses. What I can tell you is on one guitar, I'll hate it. One guitar, I like it, but mostly I'm always happy with 12. So I don't pick 12 because it's the best. I pick 12 out of it's kind of like, I pick a 12-inch radius the same reason I pick medium hot sauce at a new restaurant. I don't know how hot theirs gets and I don't know how weak theirs gets, so I go medium, right? I don't like mild and I don't like hot. Well, I do. I don't like mild and I can't take super hot. I like hot, not super hot. So just a safe, you know, if I'm in a new restaurant and they go, what kind of hot sauce? I'm like medium, because to me it's like, I'll be just a little unhappy probably in either direction. It's kind of logic. 12-inch radius for me is that. I'm just a little unhappy in either direction. I maybe wanted it rounder, maybe flatter, but either way I can handle it. Where to me 20 sometimes just gets too flat, and like I said, 7/4 just gets too round. So 12 is where I kind of just live, and that's why a lot of the guitars I own are 12s, and I'll default to a lot. But it's not because I prefer it. It's because, you know, it's just easy. Like I said, it's medium hot sauce. There is Sean says the Fender Custom Shop compound 7/4 to 9.5 seems like the perfect neck. Yeah, it's a great neck. Like I said, I like a lot of the compound radius stuff. What I will tell you is that most compound radius, I can't tell that they're compound radius. I have to test them. Yeah, I have never, in my memory, I have never picked up a compound radius neck instrument ever in my life and said, this is compound radius. I always just assume whatever the general feeling is. It goes, feels like this is a 9.5. They go, it's a 9.5 to 12. I'm like, oh, feel like 9.5. But I do like compound radius. The hard part is when people say, like, you know, when players go, does it make a huge difference? I don't know if it makes a huge difference because I can't detect it without somebody telling me it's done. So what I think is really this. When you make a really great neck, it's a great neck, and it doesn't matter what radius it is, right? When the neck is right, man, it's just right. That's how, like, thickness is another thing. How thick should a neck be? It's tough. I have thick necks I love, and I have thin necks I love, but, you know. Okay, let's do Guitar of the Week.
Now it's time for Guitar of the Week.
So, as you probably heard, my week has been crazy. And I'm going to start Guitar of the Week with this stupid thing I got to say it. So not only did I tell you guys that it's been crazy and we've been having the house painted and it's been a disaster on epic levels, I had to get a root canal. I just wanted to share that with you guys because I didn't know that was a thing. I got a root canal 8 years ago, and when I was at the Larry Mitchell clinic for like maybe 10 minutes, I got a sharp pain in the side of my face, and it went away. And that's it. It was like 5 minutes. I was standing there watching Larry play, and I was like, man, this really hurts. And it went away. So I went to my dentist, and because I've had the same dentist forever, and he's amazing, by the way. If you're in the Chandler, Phoenix area, Dr. Ray's the best. Anyways, I went and saw him because, you know, hey, you know, And I said, hey, and he looked and he goes, I don't see anything with nothing wrong. So then they did that thing where they scan your head and then they go, oh, you're crazy. No, I'm just kidding. They scan your head and they go, oh, we think we missed maybe we missed a canal, and then maybe that's what it was. So then I went to the expensive dentist. That's where they send you when your dentist sends you another dentist, right? It's just like a doctor. When somebody who you pay a lot of money to sends you to somebody else, it's going to be more. So I went to the more dentist, and they're like, oh, you need another root canal. So they just redo it. So I had that done this week. That was fun. And then, and then there was more craziness. So I don't even want to talk about that. So why am I telling you all that? Because I need you to understand why Guitar of the Week's a little different this week. So Guitar of the Week, I had no way to set up a rig. I had no way to set up anything. And I thought, what am I going to do? Not show anything? And I go, no, I'm going to show something. So what are we showing today? Well, the guitar player is about to be immediately upset. We're showing a bass today. So for the 4 bass players watching, yes, the endodontist, by the way, is what it's called. The endodontist, which, by the way, he was amazing. Not the bill part, but the guy himself. So we have a bass. What kind of bass is it? It's a Lake Placid Blue Fender Stewham Urge bass. This is a I have no idea what this is. 93, 96, who knows? I don't know. Doesn't matter. Let's just talk about the bass, shall we? This is one of the few basses I own. As you guys know, I'm a bass player primarily, but I don't own a ton of basses because I don't need to, because I use them. I don't need to wall art my walls because I actually play the damn things. Okay. All right, so this is a special bass for me because I always wanted one. This is pretty much the very first bass player I've ever experienced when I got my first Stewham album, CD, The Urge. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. What is this? And I was just enamored with his basses. And of course, as a Vi fan, as a Satriani fan, when Stewham would play with him, he would have this bass. So I always wanted one of these basses. So long story short, many years ago, I got one. So this one is a Stewham Urge 1. They eventually made a second one, and they no longer make any because he's no longer with Fender. The thing that's fun fact is, this is the very first artist signature bass with Fender ever. So the very first artist to ever get a signature bass was Stewham. A little fun fact for you. And it was this bass, which was a strange bass because I think it was co-designed by Phil Kubicki. He was with Kubicki basses, I believe, before. And of course, it has this Bootsy Collins like 500 pickup thing going on. But more importantly, it's a 32-inch scale, which is what started and ignited my love for 32-inch scale basses, which is why, as you see behind me, I'm pointing at this beautiful Warwick custom shop bass that is also 32-inch scale. So I prefer 32-inch scale, which is called medium scale. So it's not short like 30. It's not regular like 34. So think of a bass. A 34-inch scale bass would be like, I don't know if I want to say it's like a 24 3/4 or it's standard. It's a standard guitar scale for bass. So what are the features? Well, interesting enough, I thought it would be a funny story because one of the features on this bass is one of the things that everybody's been complaining about for the last couple of years, which is this has a Peo-Ferro fretboard, which even though Fender just very subtly, almost not even, I was like a whisper this week. I don't think anybody heard. I don't know if anyone heard, but Player Series 2 just came out with some new guitars. I think I saw like a small blurb somewhere in the dark edges of the internet mention about it. But anyways, what they mentioned was they stopped using Peo-Ferro and they're using rosewood. Funny thing is that Fender used to put premium on Peo-Ferro. So this is Peo-Ferro fretboard like the Stevie Ray Vaughan Strat was, or is, I should say. And so that was a premium feature on this bass to have Peo-Ferro, or Pao-Ferro if I'm saying it wrong, Pao-Ferro, whatever makes you happy. This is also a 24 fret bass. So obviously the very first 24 fret bass Fender ever made. It has a maple neck with a walnut skunk stripe. It is a one-piece neck. The material on the nut is definitely like a new bone. It's a man-made material for sure. It's not bone. This instrument is 100% stock except for I put the pink strap locks. I have no idea why I did that. And yes, it purposely comes with a gold bridge and then a gold surround there, but then it comes with black tuning keys. That's what Stewham wanted. What with gold washers. So, and the tuning keys, are they Godo? They are Godo. Godo black tuning keys. I have it wound with D'Addario tape wound strings. I have a video on that if you want to see these. These are nylon wrapped steel strings. Why? Well, when I play it, I'll just show you why. It's because it changes the tone of the bass and it makes it great. I have the instruction booklet. I cannot find it anywhere. I was looking for it today on what all this crap does. For those of you watching, it's like a volume, and then I have like a pan control, and then there's like a pickup on and off selector, and then there's a bass blend and a thing, and then there's a 5-way selector. This has got a ton of knobs. I literally don't use any of them. I literally turn this on. Not turn on. This is how it is set all the time. All the knobs are in the center detent positions. The volume's on 10. The pickups are just the way they are. Like, I don't do anything with it. I just play it the way it is. Really cool. This is an alder body, and it has a custom case that's like a 60s era case that's the gray Tolex. But yeah, the neck is on the smaller side, right? And of course, a little shorter scale, like 32-inch scale. Let me go ahead and plug it in. See how bad I mess up this week. I kind of think it's endearing now at this point. I think it's almost like not a guitar of the week if we don't mess up the audio somehow. Let me move my chair. This time I'm not going to put you at a different screen. I'm just going to move my chair. You don't need to see the mystery. Let's go to the guitar view. You can still hear me. I told you I'd show you if I could see it. There it is. There's my Princeton 64 right there. 64 Princeton right there. Like I said. Okay, so here's the bass. And let's unmute it. Okay, so essentially what these strings do is give it a warmer sound. Which is what I wanted. I don't want it for, a really bright attack. I like the instrument with these strings have kind of a deader sound to it, even though I do slap with it. So there you go. It came in a pink, black, Lake Placid blue, and a green, emerald green. And if you like Stu Ham, he does like kind of those cool little. And the main reason I got this bass was because of tapping. So I do a lot of tapping on the bass, and this was the bass that kind of I kind of saw. Before I saw like Stanley Clark, I saw Stu Ham, and so I just kind of assumed tapping would be easier on a shorter scale. So I just thought it would be easier, and it was. And then over time, I switched over to the standard 34-inch scale bass. So that's essentially it for why I use it. It's almost never, let me switch again. It's almost never, very, very rarely you see it in a video in the background. I almost never play it. It's a Case Candy Queen, right? Or Case Candy Queen? Is that a thing? Case Queen? It's a Case Queen. It sits in its case a lot. Because once I had the Warwick made, to my exact, I didn't have to play somebody else's bass. But I love this bass. And which is interesting because I told you guys if something comes in, something's got to go. For basses, I have my very short scale Kiesel bass. I have the Warwick. I have a Fender Jazz Deluxe, and I have this. And man, I just love this bass. It's different to me than like the Jim. If you guys know, I got a Steve I Jim because when I was younger, that was the guitar to have for me. And then when I got older, I could afford one, and it was like, it's kind of like being old enough to buy a sports car, but nowhere to drive now, right? That's how the Jim is for me. I got nothing to do. This bass though is different for me because it's the bass that I wanted when I was young, and I have a total use for it, which is great. Now I wanted to, like I said, go through the controls. The one thing I will tell you is there's a reason why I actually don't mess with the controls too much. This bass works. If you look online at these, you'll see that most people gut them, and so they're hard to find intact original like this. But also, you're almost impossible to find them still working. They just literally they don't hold up. The electronics did not hold up. So, and if I ever get to interview Stu Ham, I'm going to ask him why did he go from the 32-inch scale back to the 34-inch scale. I would love to know that. Maybe one day I'll get to interview him and ask him those questions. But that's it. I thought I would do bass. One, because I was just plugged into the interface today. I didn't have to set up an amp or anything. I didn't have any time. Like I said, They had pulled the tape off my doorway, like literally right before I was going to do the show. So I'm like, okay, I can get back into my office. So that is it. So yeah, it's a unique bass. I love it. You know, that's the guitar of the week. It's a bass of the week. It's bass of the week. So for the guitar players, finally the bass players will be happy. So, and I think that's the whole point of guitar of the week, is to be like a tell a story and stuff. That's the only story I really have about it, is that, you know, that's it. All right, let's keep going. Let's keep acting like we're professionals here. Justin says, is there a good place to find uncommon wiring diagrams? I'm doing a HS 2 volumes 4-way switch and kill switch as always. Thank you. Yeah, there is. What is wrong with me? Edwards? Is it Edwards Electronics? There's a ton of good places, but I used to like Seymour Duncan's, but it seems like they start framing them more like, oh, you know what? I'm going to do guitar. I'm trying to remember, and if somebody puts it in the comment section, that'd be even better, but let's see what it says. Diagrams, not Reddit. Freyland's good. He's pretty good. Project Guitar is pretty good. But the one I use a lot is Something Electronics. And it's a really good one. And I want to say Edwards. It has Einstein. That's all I know, is it has Einstein. So I have a lot of them saved. So here's what happened. Maybe it was a bad idea to do, but I did it. Whenever I would wire a guitar in electronics schematics, I would go online and get them, and I would print them, and I'd put them in a folder. So I have 2 folders full of electronics printouts. What little did I know, it was smart to do that for the fact that a lot of those diagrams are missing now off the internet. You try to find them, you can't find them. But I should have put them in a PDF, something I can share. So maybe I'll scan them one day. Maybe that's a project. I can scan them all and then share them in a PDF. Guitar 1952 says Stu Max. Stu Max, great too. I mean, to be honest, I virtually just searched the internet looking for them, and then guitarelectronics.com. Let's see if that's right, who I'm thinking of. It is guitarelectronics.com. So I will resource them the most. I told you it was Einstein, guitarelectronics.com. So this is a great resource for wiring diagrams. I will use them quite often too. In fact, I'm sure I've printed almost every one they've ever had. So I used to be, this is like a decade ago, I used to be on a forum and we would share with each other. And then, you know, like a lot of forums, you stop going to it and then I don't even know if it exists anymore. All right. I have no idea what this is even you're asking me. I have to Google this question. Okay, ready? I have no idea what that is. Oh, nope, that's from a long time ago. Somebody asked me a question about something, but the question's so short, I don't know what it is. So Alexander says, hey, King Fave Univibe. I think, are you asking me what's my favorite Univibe? I don't have a favorite Univibe. I use the Line 6 HX1 for a Univibe sound. That's what I use for that stuff now. So sadly enough, that's where I'm at. Gabriel says, what are your thoughts on the humbucker shaped P90s considering Lawler novel 90s? So I guess Lawler announced he did a noiseless, I think he did a noiseless P90s. I like the Fat Cat by Seymour Duncan. I currently use the DiMarzio version because he sent me a noiseless and a regular, and I ended up liking the regular more than the noiseless. Put that in my Charvel. I did a video comparing them. So, you know, it's one of those things. I prefer a P90 shaped P90 sound-wise. Obviously, I think that's what the video takeaway was. I thought that's what the takeaway was. But nothing wrong with a P90 in a humbucker shape. I like P90s, like I said, and I like P90s so much that even I like cheap ones, I like expensive ones, I like good ones, I like bad ones. They all sound pretty good to me for what they do. Okay. El Dunario says, Phil has a brain test every Friday. It's interesting. Like I said, it's the memory thing you're always pulling from. Let's see. All right. This is... Okay, hold on a second while I'm doing this. All right. Amanda sent me some questions, right? I'm pretty sure she did. And maybe? Yes. Today. All right. So Amanda's got some stuff as she pins it for me. Thank you, Amanda. And by the way, thank you, Brian, for posting links. Thank you. I'm scrolling because I didn't take any time to thank anybody. Unfreaking Believable, thank you so much. I'm scrolling. I'm going to miss somebody, as always, but I just wanted to say thank you while I was thinking of it. George Kaplan says, my pal installed a mini humbucker to his HSS. Tips on a capacitor for the selector. I mean, I like orange drops. If you're asking me what value, if you went with a mini humbucker and HSS, I would go 250K. Well, I'm thinking the pots, 250K pots. I would do a 0.22 microfarad is probably what I'd go with. Orange drop. Why orange drop? I always get this because, you know, the internet will fight forever. The capacitors don't matter. Quality doesn't matter. They definitely matter. Here's what I know. I like orange drops. They sound good. They feel good. They're cheap. And I'm fine. I went capacitor nuts about a decade ago and tried everything and heard the little differences. And at the end of the day, what I learned was I was always happy with an orange drop, and it didn't have to cost a ton of money. Okay. Nornick wants to know, Phil, would you consider more filing single frets just after hammering them into... Would I consider more? Okay, filing frets just after hammering them into a fretboard, having them long side without general leveling, or maybe just cut them short before hammering. Okay, I think I know what you're saying. Would I consider... I think what he's asking me, and Nornick, I'm hoping I'm not messing this up for you, but I think you're asking me, when you fret... And if you're not asking this, I apologize, but at least it's an interesting thing because it comes up a lot. When you see people put frets into fretboards, sometimes they make them long and they stick over the sides. And I've done that in a video. And then sometimes they're exactly measured out to the width of the fretboard. And I've done it that way too. There's reasons why I do each one. In my personal preference is the more I've radius them, the more I will cut them to the exact width, because I just want to make sure that radius is perfect. Like the more rounded it is, the more I want that fret to kind of just go in there. Like, yes, that's how it goes. The flatter the radius, the more I'll just stick it out the sides and I'll force it into the shape. I just have to round it a little bit and force it into shape. I only do that for... because that actually that's not the only reason. Another reason was if I'm fretting for the first time, like I know the fretboard's never accepted a fret before, I will also probably cut them to the exact width and put them in. Where if I'm refretting, I tend to leave the fret ends about a ½ inch over each side. Again, I don't necessarily can tell you one way is better than the other because I use both, but there's reasons why I pick one over the other. And that's the reasons I just gave you. And it's just usually about, problems. I'm trying to avoid any problems, and I've found success doing it that way. Mike wants to know, he says he recently got a Heritage H535 with a Lollertrons, and he loves it. He got 20% off. Do you think that's a good deal? Also, any ideas if it'll hold value? Well, again, value, nothing holds value as well as a Gibson or Fender. That's what they bring to the table. Then after that, USA-made guitars, artist guitars, and guitars that are uniquely cool and discontinued will hold the most value. We talk about this a lot, and what I always tell you is this, is in the value proposition, like you guys, my reason why I care about value is because sometimes I buy a guitar and I just don't bond with it and I got to sell it, and it's the better holds value, the less money I lose trying something new. In your case, Heritage does not take a dive as bad as some companies, but they don't hold up like Gibson, like I showed you guys when I was talking about the Heritage versus Gibson. But you started with 20% off, so you started almost at dealer cost, so that's really good. So you're close to that. Electric urinal, don't use that. He says, is it better to run Strat Bridge plate studs high and saddles low. Oh, okay. I understand what you're saying. Or the bridge studs low and the saddles high. Okay, so let's talk about that. So what he's asking is specifically, and let's not even make it a strat. Let's just make it a tremolo. For height, you need height. Is it better to raise the 2 posts up and bring the whole bridge up? Is it better to, which essentially would raise the plate, or is it better to pull the bridge forward and bring the plate up that way, or let the bridge let low and the posts low and raise the saddles up? The answer is none of that. You don't want any one of those things to be. You want it to be in most cases, and again, I can only generalize because I'm not looking at specific guitar. We're talking about generally speaking with guitars. You want to achieve the height with the posts. If you need height, you bring the posts just a little bit. You bring the saddles just a little bit. You're just trying to get the whole thing there. If you bring the saddles too high and they're up like an angle, you're causing a problem with the angle on the strings, the brag angle. You can cause obviously intonation issues. Even if you intonate it, it becomes problematic. Tuning stability issues. And the same thing when you're pulling up too off the body. So essentially, you're just trying to get. I like to look at it like an average. Like if I'm bringing up the saddles and I think they're getting too high, I might then stop and then start bringing up the whole bridge. If I'm bringing up the whole bridge and it's too high, then I go back to the saddles. Right? Again, you want to achieve that height. Generally speaking, as a team of all those components making the height, not just any one particular one holding all the problem or holding all the height, because in my experience, you do run into some problem either whether it's tuning instability or breaking strings or intonation issues. So that's the best way I would do it. Jay says, have you played the Sir DSV DHS pickups? Having difficulty finding a good comparison video to the pickups. I don't remember if I played them. Let's take a look. I've played a lot of Sir pickups. I like Sir pickups. Now, when I say I like Sir pickups, is yeah, I've tried these because they're in the moderns, the modern guitars. I'm seeing they're putting them in some of the modern. I've had a modern before. I like Sir pickups. To me, all Sir pickups tend to be on the very clear, brighter side of things. So to me, it's like way I look at pickups now is the way I look at a lot of things, like pedals and amps and all that stuff. But specifically pickups, it's not what they're made of, although that matters. It's a huge part. It's who made it. In other words, where their ear, what do they want? Did they want more highs? They want more lows? They want more balance? They want more, push? To me, Sir guitars always seem to be more in the balanced and the high frequency range, like balanced tone, balanced sound spectrum, but more in the highs. That's what I experience a lot of times with Sir pickups, and that's why I like them. So to me, it's not about pickups are good or bad. It's about why I would like one over the other, why I would prefer this one towards another one. And so when I think Sir, I'm thinking like if I had a guitar that was really muddy, that might be a way I might go is get some Sir pickups and get a little brighter and more balanced sound out of the guitar. Frank says, hey, Phil, any tips on how to minimize damage to an SGP90 bridge screws if you want to lower the action? I've had a bad experience in the past. Yeah, when you raise and lower pickups that are direct mounted, period, direct mounted pickups, period, P90s, of course, problematic. So for those of you listening or watching, what he's really getting at is this. He's trying to lower the P90 bridge or pickup. And it's, sometimes you can strip the heads of the screws out and stuff. And the reason is because usually underneath those pickups, if they're direct mounted, there's usually one of three sources. There's a piece of foam, there's springs, or springs and foam. Sometimes there's holes in the foam and there's two springs in there. Not like springs like you're thinking of like ends, those long springs. These are shorter springs. They're wider and less. You can squish them with your finger like this. But either way, the problem is that when you're compressing down, the material is being, obviously pushed out, and it can only compress so much. And then something has to give. And in our current world, cheap pot metal gives before the foam does, right? So you strip out the screws, or you damage, or you crack the screws, or, So if you're going to lower a pickup, whether it's a humbucker or a single coil or a P90, and it's direct mounted to the guitar, to me, it should be really easy. What I mean by that is that when you turn that screw and you turn one turn, it goes down. It just goes like butter. If it doesn't, as soon as you feel anything as soon as you feel any stop, take the screws out, take the pickup out, and now you got to start guessing like, okay, I want it to go down about 1/8 of an inch. I'm going to remove about an eighth of an inch of material off the foam or whatever it is that's there. Sometimes it can be surgical tubing, but mostly it's foam. You need to remove material. And so that's what I do. And also, just so you know, not only do I do that, but I also have a nice stockpile of screws that are actually steel that will take more abuse. So I will do that. And then but like I said, if a screw came with a guitar, I always assume it's going to strip out and it's junk now. I've just gotten to the point now where it's just everything is IKEA furniture. It's just, it just can't take any abuse. So that's what you want to do. Bubbly Juice says, could a piezo output on my Hollow Body 2 SE be too hot for Katana 100 acoustic input? Seems to distort easily. Yeah, it is possible. It's sending too much signal. I think that guitar has an adjustment inside. If it doesn't, then you need your actual volume control and back it off a little bit. So, but yeah, it's possible. Yeah, but keep in mind, I don't think acoustic guitar amps have padded inputs like bass amps. But I always find that when I run acoustic transducer style pickups into electric guitar amps, even if they have a setting like that says acoustic, I find you get a little bit of distortion, clipping, a little bit of brightness, a little bit of harshness. So I find that you definitely want to back it off a little bit. So that's what I would suggest. Stanley wants to know if I have any videos on recording software. I don't. If not, when you make one, no. You know what it is? There's through the years I've tried different endeavors. It's a trait of doing content. You're like, oh, I did a good guitar video and pedal video. Why don't I do this video? And you start dabbling into things. And what I learned is that the more I go into the weeds, unless I'm specifically just making a video about my personal journey real quick, like, hey, I'm trying to learn more about this and here's what I'm experiencing. I don't want to do tutorials and instruction. It seems so obvious. Seems so obvious. But I don't think it is, because I see too many YouTubers doing it, including myself. Back in the day, I did it too. If you have to quickly learn a subject to make a video, like, okay, let me research everything I can about this thing and then make a video, maybe you should make that video. So I tend to bank now, if you notice, more and more onto like what I know and what I really like, more so. Like I said, if I know about it, then I can come as objectionable, something. I don't know. Doesn't matter what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is I could come at something with knowledge and go, even if I don't like it, I could give you input and advice on it. If I do like it, then it's easy. I'm sharing what I like. But when it comes to recording stuff, I've learned recording, like cameras. Notice I don't talk about my cameras and I go, this is the camera to use. I have lots of cameras, lots of lighting rigs, lots of everything. I've learned it all so that I can make video content now. And that's what I've learned, just enough to learn it, to do it. But I'd rather be an authority on a subject than just adding to the mess of great videos that are already out there, taking away from somebody's great video. A little bit of overdrive. That's a great little sign on. It says, Phil, I want to reshape my Les Paul Studios neck. I know StewMac has a few neck profile templates. They do. I have them all. And are there any companies making neck shape templates? I don't know. I don't know if Maxim Guitar Works does. If Steve at Maxim makes neck templates, but I would check Maxim Guitar Works, and then maybe Crimson Guitars is another good source for that. But I have all the StewMac ones and I like them. And again, it's not, they're the best. That's what I bought. I found, like you, I knew a resource. I went to it. I bought them all. I've invested in it now, and that's why I have it. So Sean Brooks says, Phil, do you think Marshall is going to come out with a modeler soon? No, isn't that what they kind of teased? The Marshall, the Code series seems poorly received, but they are still selling them on Sweetwater. Well, the Code series is what they have. So it was poorly received. Again, just like what I said, right? Why make something that everybody else is doing better than you? I played the Code series. It's not that they're bad. Marshall's not going to make a horrible amp we're not saying that. But is there a lot of companies, the Code, I'd have to A/B the code versus the Katana. To me, it's not about if the code is better than the Katana. No, that's what it's about. It's got to be better than the Katana, and I don't know if it's better than the Katana. It's probably the same in some ways. Marshall, everybody here watching right now knows what Marshall's problem is. Marshall knows what Marshall's problem is. They just don't care. Will they care? Who knows? Their problem is what a lot of guitar companies' problems are, and amp companies. I'm actually displaying the problem in front of you, whether you realize it or not. I'm sitting here talking to you. There's 984 of you, so right, 900 people talking to me right now and watching. We'll get a few thousand views after this on the rebroadcast, right? Here's a Marshall in view. They don't even make that. You can't buy that. You can buy a used one. That doesn't help Marshall. The problem isn't that I have a Marshall that they can't buy. The problem is that's the Marshall I think is good. And the Marshall they make now, I don't want. And that's a problem because their job is to get a addicted guitar. Look, their job first probably is to get rock stars to play their gear so that we want it. The problem with the world that we live in now, where somebody like me exists, talking to a bunch of other people like me, right? You're watching me every Friday, gauging your sickness against my sickness. You're like, well, I'm looking at his top row guitars and his bottom row, and I don't have as much crap as him, so I'm not as bad off as him. Or, oh man, I got more than him now where I'm cooler, right? Somewhere there's some mental, game in the head being played here. We just love this stuff so much, right? The reality is we are the easiest segment to sell something to. And Marshall's not selling us really anything. And that's the problem. Sean, so yeah, the problem is, do I want Marshall to make a modeler? No. I have a Kemper. There's Axe Effects. Who knows? With AI, I think modelers can go a totally different way soon. Anybody played with the song apps where you just tell it to make you a song? I had this song app write songs about my daughter and her cat and my wife and her cat, and I played them for them and they were laughing, right? Because I'm like, this thing just made a song in 4 minutes and sounds fine, So what am I going to do? What are we going to do when AI is like, hey, make my guitar sound like Hendrix, and it just sounds like Hendrix? And let me tell you, Marshall ain't going to come up with that. Who's going to come up with that is Axe Effects, somebody who's in the, what's the other one? Neural DSP, whatever, right? So my point is Marshall has a history, a legacy, and they know tube amps, and that's what they should do. Because, yeah, you won't be Apple, but you could be the local record store. You can still be cool. You can still get people. I was at a local record store a week and a half ago. It was full of people on a Wednesday at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. It's full of kids. It's freaking kids in that store buying records. So they're buying. I didn't even grow up on records. Right? I was a little teeny child. I would take my sister's records. My sister had records. I had cassettes. I didn't have 8-tracks. It was like, by the time I got into music, it was like records, 8-tracks, right to cassettes. And then I was cassettes, and then I was CDs. Majority of my life was CDs, right? Kids are buying records. They're like, think of how many technologies back that is. That's whatever streaming is. Then you go back from streaming, you go to MP3, you go to CD, you go to cassette, you go to 8-track. They're freaking 6 generations back on technology they're buying, and the records are like $40 a piece. For the record, pun intended, for the record, hold on. Why I was in the record stores, I bought the CD. This is Joe Bonamassa Dust Bowl. I bought it used for $8.99. I wanted a new CD, so I went with my wife, and I bought a CD. I paid $8.99 while kids were spending $40 on music. So my point is, Marshall, is that you're not going to be MP3. You're definitely not going to be streaming. You're a record. Be a record. They're still buying records. They'll still buy Marshall amps. But we know that's what Marshall's problem is. They need to do that. That's what they need. They need to make a product that is as good as they've always made it, and I think that's, but we know what it is. The problem is that they're speaking of streaming, they make Bluetooth speakers and headphones, which is, for streaming and for MP3s and stuff. So that's my tirade on that. So Sean, that's, do I think they should make a modeler, or do I think that's coming out? I don't really care. It's, I just saw Fender's modeler. I had zero interest in that modeler, zero interest in anything about it. I'm so disinterested in the Fender's modeler that if Fender was to message me right now and say, hey, we'd like to send you a modeler, I'd be like, nah, I'm not interested. I don't want to sit there and commit my time to it. I've already learned some of I have the Tonex, I have the Kemper, right? I've already kind of put my time into that for function, for work, to do that stuff. But and I'm not anti-technology, as you know. I use that stuff. It's great. It's fantastic even. But it's not romantic. And a Marshall amp, that Marshall amp's romantic. You plug into that and it's great, So that's where I think Marshall. But hey, the good news is Dave Friedman can make great amps, and when there's no Marshalls, there'll be Friedmans and Fryets and other stuff. All right, Michael says, just bought a Charvel. When depressing the Floyd bridge, I heard a pop in the neck pocket. Are you sure it was in the neck pocket? The bridges tend to pop. I also can hear a pop when moving the neck side to side. How do I fix this? Oh, okay, there's two things. Well, one, you want to first tighten the screws, see if you can tighten them. You don't have to do any crazy stuff. There's all kinds of YouTube videos like push this and let the force pull the neck. Just tighten the screws. It's fine. Sit it in your lap, straighten the neck out, make sure the two strings, your two E strings are not falling off the side of the fretboard or having issues. Everything plays right. Go ahead and tighten the screws down. If you tighten those screws down with the correct size screwdriver, right, like use, and you find that they're not tightening, in other words, they keep turning, you're going to have to fill them and tighten them. Now, here's the deal. If it was me, I would pull the neck, drill the 4 holes, dowel them, re-drill them, and put the screws back in with the correct size holes. You might not have, a drill press. You might not have all the stuff to do that. So you could just use, the same thing people have used forever. You can use some toothpicks and some wood glue and fill them in a little bit, and then letting it dry a little bit, and then screw them in, and that'll work fine too, man. That will get you there. Like I said, the saying is called good enough from rock and roll. For everyone's going to have an opinion every way. Here's my opinion that will help you understand. As a guitar tech, I would do it the right way because I'm conditioned to do it the way somebody would pay me to do it. If I was a guitar tech and you were a rock star and I was your tech on the side of the stage, you would be getting wood chips and glue and picks. We would keep the show going, and it would work probably forever. So that's your two options. Right. Okay. By the way, thank you again, Amanda, for sending all these forward to me. All right. And then, okay. I think we're good. Did we do everything? Let me check the super chats. No more super chats. Although, thank you so much again. I appreciate all the super chats. Hey, you know what? In behalf of YouTube, they appreciate the super chats too because they get half. All right, so, let's do this. Jeremy says, Phil, thank you for your commitment to Friday's show. Is a SH Tele a gimmick? What would be the reason for a humbucker in the neck and a single coil in the bridge? It's because a lot of Tele players divide up into 3 categories. Let's do 3. Some Tele players, it's all about the bridge, man. I'm a bridge Tele guy. Just something about a Telecaster bridge pickup, just throaty, punchy, bright, in your face. I'm there. If I had the chops, okay, if I played at a level that would deem it, I would have a Tele on bridge mode all the time. That's the Tele in bridge mode. When you see a player and you see the selector switch on the Tele in the bridge mode, that guy or gal, they're going to show you something. They're about to play. Or they have no idea what they just walked into. A bridge Tele tone is I'm here and you can't ignore it. Everyone in this room is about to hear what I have to say. It's a megaphone in your face. It's a great sound. If you're like me and your whole point on stage is to be anonymous so that the person next to you who's more talented gets all the attention, but you get the same check, then you're all about the Tele neck pickup. It's anonymous. It's a little warmer. It's thinner. It's a great sound, and that's where the second camp of the Tele fanatics come from. They're right in the neck. Now, some Tele players don't like how the bridge goes from megaphone in your face, I'm here, you can't ignore me, to neck pickup, how's it going? Thanks for inviting me. So nice to be here. So sometimes you got to put a humbucker in that neck pickup so the neck has the same voice, the volume, the control, the power of the bridge. And that's where it evens out. Now, I said there's a third camp, and the third camp is the middle position. Some Tele players like the middle position. I love the middle position of the Tele as well. It's just very acoustic feeling to me. It just feels nice. It's not as quiet as the neck, but it's a nice blend, of those two. So this is a weird thing. I have to tell you, and I'm glad that Jeremy, thank you for asking, and thank you for asking if it was a gimmick. It's not a gimmick. Do you need it? No. I mean, you could put a P90 there. You could put a stacked Tele neck pickup there, and it's going to get you close. You could put a mini rail pickup. I mean, but it's just somebody's just trying to get a sound. But a lot of times players like to even out. To me, the most obvious guitar is the oh my God, why can't I think of his name? The guitar player that plays a Tele with DiMarzio's in it. He was in Poison for a minute. I am losing my mind. Okay. I cannot believe I'm spacing this person who is Richie Kotzen. The Richie Kotzen Tele, to me, is the most extreme Tele ever, where the bridge is, like I said, it's 100. It's in your face. It's there. And the neck, the volume just drops in half. Like if you had distortion going on the bridge, you got a lot of gain. You go to neck, you're almost clean sound now. So I say that guitar because that guitar is definitely what a lot of players perceive a regular Tele sounding like. But to me, they're okay. Just that one's the most extreme. But so it's not a gimmick. And then last super chat, Rich says, "Hey Phil, I need some help on my sad and hopeless amp journey. No amp journey is hopeless nowadays. Have you tried the Soldano Astro 20? So it's okay. Let's get into that. And how do you like the SLO 30 compared to the Mesa Rectoverb? So perfect. The Astro 20 have not tried at all. I wasn't on that list. So they didn't send one out for me to try. I wasn't on their Soldano list either. I just bought one. But I'm not buying an Astro. And here's why I'm not buying the Astro, because this SLO 30, which was an expensive amp, is a great amp. I did not like it as much as my Rectoverb 25. I didn't like it as much as my Fireball 25. So here's the interesting story about the SLO 30, which is maybe helpful. A great guy, a viewer of the channel, he I didn't know this, but I did the interview with Mike Soldano. I talked about the SLO 30, and he bought one. He bought an SL 30, and so fast forward, I don't know, a year later, I do a review of the Rectoverb. I do a review of the Engl Fireball 25. And I proclaim that it's one of my favorite amps. It is, to this day, one of my favorite amps. I've had it now since the day it came out. So if that was 3 years ago or longer, 4 years ago, I have it. If I only keep one heavy metal amp, that's the amp I'm keeping, is my Fireball 25. So that's how much I like it. on the show, somebody asked me about the SL30. Hey, you're going to get an SL30. You were really talking about liking it. And I said, oh, I have the Fireball 25. And I said, it's like the poor man's SL30, and I'm totally happy. And then the viewer in question who had the SL30, who bought it because he saw my video, he messaged me and he's like, hey, I actually bought that amp because of you, and then I bought the Fireball 25 because of you, and I actually like the Fireball 25 better. Do you want to buy my SL30? So I bought his SL30, so he bought off him. And I had it, and I played it for about a year, maybe 2. And then I just, again, it's a fantastic amp, but if we're talking about minutes, hours on the clock, I was playing the Fireball 25 every time I was playing that amp. Why? I thought the clean channel was good. I liked the noise gate in it. I thought the distortion in it. I liked the power attenuator in it. I just liked it. So that's why I went. The Rectoverb 25 to me is a different animal than both those amps. So those two amps have that high gain, really fizzy distortion. The Rectoverb's kind of more of a crunch amp. The Rectoverb 25, this is what's funny about that, is the reason I have that amp is, one, it has reverb. So it's nice to have a clean with reverb. If the Fireball 25 had reverb, I would get rid of the Rectoverb. Like if Engl announced tomorrow Fireball 25 reverb with reverb, I'd have to hear it first to make sure nothing's changed in the amp. But if that amp had reverb built in it, I would not own the Rectoverb. I like the Rectoverb because, again, it has reverb in it and it's kind of cool. So that's what it is. And so to me, it's a priority thing. If you need reverb and you don't want pedals on your clean channel, I would say go the Rectoverb. You will need some kind of higher gain pedal with it if you want to get the highest gain and not the crunchy, high crunchy gain. And I've warned you before, or if you're new, then I haven't warned you, but I warn some of you guys all the time that I am also hugely fans of musicians, and then sometimes the gear they use, I like to have it. I like to play it. I'm a huge Bowling for Soup fan. They play Mesa Boogie rectifiers. I'm a huge Metallica fan, and they play rectifiers. So there's a reason why I have a rectifier. Rectoverb is to me just having this amp that a lot of the players that I love play. Weezer had a rectifier. I mean, there's just a ton of players. Mark Tremonti had a rectifier. So that's all. And then I like having the reverb, and I like so I'll use the rectifier for, like, if I'm playing Bowling for Soup stuff, I'll plug it into that. But I like and like I said, I have not tried the Astro 20, so I don't know anything about it. I watched Michael Nielsen's video on it. It was really good. If you're going to watch one, I watched a bunch. His was the best, of course, as always. Not only because he's got the chops, but he's just got a lot of great insight. And he really has a great ear for detecting it when an amp sounds good and not, and talking about what it is that's great about it. If the Astro had reverb in it, maybe I'd consider it, because then again, I like the idea of having an amp where you can get rid of a bunch of amps. I was trying to pare down. I don't like having 20 amps. It's not my goal. I have, in my opinion, a lot of amps, and I have it because I'm unhappy with a lot of amps, and this is how amalgamy of how close I am to what I want. So in a perfect world, what I want is like the Fender Princeton 65 Deluxe, that super clean Fender with a beautiful reverb. And then I want something like gain-wise, like the Archon or the Fireball and Soldano, something just a little meatier, distorted, little gain. And I don't know. I haven't found it yet. So, all right. Hope that was informative to some degree. Give you some inputs on why I made the choices I made. All right, guys. As always, I want to thank you guys for hanging out. If you want to check out the T-shirt contest, basically you can use the links down below. You can buy some merch, take a picture, send it to the email link below that says send the picture here. If you've already taken a picture in the past and you have it, please resend it. A lot of you have, because like I said, although I have the pictures, I don't have your email addresses. So I want to keep them all in one folder, and it just makes it easier for us for consistency of the contest. We're giving away a ton of stuff, maybe some more announcements next week. We will be picking one of the first winners next week, because we have so much stuff sent that at the rate, we already figured out, the rate of between now and the end of the year, we may not be able to get through all the stuff we have to give away. And we don't want to do it all at once because we pay for the shipping and that stuff adds up real fast. I mean, when you're talking about almost $1,000 in shipping by the time all this stuff's done. So we'd like to parcel that out. Personally, I'd rather pay $200 a month in shipping than all at one time. You can imagine that. I'm sure you're all the same way. All right. That's it. And then I'll see you guys on next Friday. And then also, please check the channel for more videos. And if you haven't checked out the second channel, I've been releasing some cool content on the second channel, including, I think I'm going to put in a video on there that I released to the patrons that a friend made for me, that he titled, why guitar companies have a problem with me. And I retitled it to what guitar companies see when they watch a Know Your Gear video. So I think I'm going to post it on the second channel. I might post it on this channel. But either way, check both channels for that video. It was really interesting for me. In fact, my wife's face, her reaction, I wish I would have filmed her reaction to the video. She was like, I get it now. Yeah, I get it now too. And I want to thank you guys so much for supporting the channel because I get it now. All right. As always, I want to thank you guys so much for your time. To the next time, Know Your Gear.
The Know Your Gear podcast. Today's episode of the Know Your Gear podcast is brought to you by Patreon members, channel members, and viewers who like and subscribe. Thank you for making this possible.